All right, so we're live.
Whoa.
Hi, welcome to the show. This is I would say second episode, almost I think at this point a little bit more than a year apart.
Has it been over a year already? Holy crap.
Yeah, so the thing that happened was right after my interview with you. A lot of stuff happened at work that kind of spanned from that point to all the way into December. And long story short, we were figuring out that we were getting laid off, and it took kind of from the what happened after the interview until December. Things started to get super real by the
Yeah.
time like September and October came around, and then
And then we're
um,
here we are.
and here we are. Yeah. So welcome to our brave new world.
Oh Lord.
And I think we're just kind of here to talk about it because um for folks that stick with this channel, thank you, by the way. I haven't really posted anything because when a lot of the shelter in place order started happening, I was like, okay, well, a little bit before that, I heard about the shelter in place, I was like, okay, I guess I'll just do my podcast because my work just furloughed me. They
Yeah.
said it's a risk for you to go back to work. You can't speak with students right now because the school is going to be canceled. And so it's like, okay, I guess I'll just do the podcast. It gives me something to do. And then the next day, literally the next day, like that Saturday, they were like, oh, shelter in place orders, you can't visit people, you can't do a lot of things. And I was just like, I guess I can't do that now. And so I talked to Kalani, my co-host for the anime podcast, and I was like, I guess we're not going to be doing this right now. and then and
Well, at
then
least you're Zoom now, so we can do like these kind of podcasts.
yeah, so I think it was about a month after I started getting stir crazy because I finished um editing a lot of um videos that I kind of had backlogged, a lot of my hiking videos that stuff dated to like 2018.
Dang, that's old, bro.
Yeah,
That's some old content.
yeah, it
That's
was just,
ancient.
I think the issue was I was just trying to figure out how to do stuff like that, or like get
Yeah.
back into filming. And that's why I kind of waited like 2 years to edit those videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay, no judgment, man. I got photos from like 2017 that I still haven't touched yet. And at this point, I don't think it's gonna happen.
I yeah, funny thing you mentioned that. That's probably the only reason why I made an Instagram, because
Oh,
before,
really?
yeah, prior to your podcast, I
Uh-huh.
didn't even had an Instagram.
Yeah.
Lonnie was on my case about it. She would always tell me, it's like, hey, make an Instagram, make an Instagram. It's like, why do I want to make an Instagram?
Yeah.
But
See, the problem with Instagram is if you don't want to have one, and you're kind of forced to make one, you're just never gonna put like your full effort into it.
yeah,
And like people can tell when you're not putting in your full effort into
mhm,
like an Instagram page, and
yeah,
then it just never takes off. So you're just wasting your time if you feel like, oh, like I'm not really into this, but I'm just gonna do it anyways, you
y-
know?
yeah. What changed with me was that I kind of middle of 2019 is that I started taking more photos,
Yeah.
and I was being asked to take photos for the Alhambrosaurus, and so it's
Hmm.
like I'm I'm producing a lot of these like photos for like a independent news journalism site for the city of Alhambra, and I'm
Yeah.
like, they only choose like maybe 4 or 5, and that's nothing wrong. It's like they just want some photos, they don't want all the photos. And so it's like I have just a lot of photos backed up, and I guess something changed in my mind. I was like, maybe I should just get an Instagram just in case,
Yeah.
then just put up some of my old stuff, maybe some new stuff onto it. So I think that kind of changed the way I thought about Instagram, because I just thought that 1-to-1 ratio didn't look great. That was probably
Yeah.
one of the main reasons.
Yeah.
um but after a while, just like I started to kind of like play around with that limitation.
Well, you don't need to do one by one because they do offer 4x5 now.
Oh, do
It's
they?
been, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a feature for like I would say like 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. Like you're not constrained to one by one. Like all my Instagram posts are one by one or one by one when you're on my actual Instagram page.
Hmm.
But if you click on the photo or like when you're scrolling on your Instagram feed, it shows up by 4x5. So it either goes 4x5 um vertically or horizontally.
I should really look into that because I was just under this thought and assumption that it's just this kind of like one standard. And I did kind
Yeah,
of
no,
play around with
that's like old school Instagram, man. That's like
working with old rules.
2012, 2014 Instagram where they forced you to do one by one, but now you can do like 4x5. And I think Instagram stories is 16:9.
16
If I'm
by
not
9?
mistaken. Yeah, so if you're on Instagram stories, it fills up the entire screen. So the ratio is 16:9, I think.
Okay, I think. All right. All right. I think that
Yeah.
makes sense because I think some of my stories, I think if you go to some of the stuff I posted on this free Hong Kong protest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are just the complete ratio that I shot those images in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so oh shoot, I don't think I ever introduced my guest. Oh my god. So
First mistake of a podcaster, sir. I was waiting for that.
oh no,
But
I'm
I
so
feel
sorry.
like, I mean, I've been on the channel before, so if
Yeah.
anyone is like an OG follower, they'll remember who I am. I'm not that forgetful,
That's
am
true, but for being a little bit late, like maybe 10 minutes late, my guest is Vincent Lu. Yeah, he owns his own um, photography page or
I?
like kind of photography business,
Yeah.
and we're just kind of here to talk about. So, like, if you haven't realized, the date is 2020.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of it. We're in the thick of it,
The
and
Roaring 20s.
yeah.
Uh.
And so wait, didn't like 1920 started with a pandemic?
No, the I don't like calling it the Spanish flu because it kind of has the same connotation as like the Chinese virus.
Yeah.
But the widespread name or the historical name of what happened in the early 20th century is the quote unquote Spanish flu
Mm-hmm.
that kind of took place around like 1918, 1919.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're about 100 year, a little over a year late, but you know, we're here now. We're here now.
And what an
Despite the
anniversary
pandemic.
it is.
Oh, history. Oh,
Yes. So we're currently dealing with this kind of global pandemic, and the reasons why I wanted to ask you on for this podcast is just to kind of talk about you know um we talked about being a creative in like 2019 and the pressure of being Asian and trying to do creative art forms, right? But now there's like this higher stress now um um with this current pandemic. I'm not even being monetized. So like COVID-19 has been kind of
yeah.
a real big issue for everybody in the creative field. Everybody is doing shows in their home. Everybody that wasn't streaming or like doing that type of content are now doing those things.
Or we're on OnlyFans.
There's that too. Yeah. we could dive into
And just for
some of
clarification,
that.
I
Yeah.
don't have one, but I have friends who have one, and I fully support them.
Yeah.
But,
All work.
desperate times call for desperate measures. Just kidding.
Yeah. All work should be valued, right? Yeah. So, um, has there been any stress for you in terms of what's been going on work wise?
So I guess for me to answer that question, I'm gonna have to backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
and give you guys a little update on where I am right now compared to where I was last year.
Yeah. True. Go ahead.
So last year I think I was kind of like riding a wave of like really good projects spilling over from 2018. I was kind of the fresh new photographer. I was like learning the ropes and kind of like getting my feet wet within the industry. And then as soon as the podcast went live, I think a couple of months after that, I had like a very slow period in my business where I wasn't getting as much work as I kind of hoped for. I was a little bit on the lazier side. I wasn't promoting myself as much anymore. And I was just kind of like becoming more insular and working towards my, with my delivery job because I work 2 jobs. I'm a photographer, but I also do delivery for.
Right.
And so I felt like I was spending so much time doing like a lot of collab shoots and working with other people that I wasn't really making that much money. So I wanted to focus more on my delivery job.
Right.
But in retrospect, doing so kind of stunted my photography business. I wasn't doing as well as I was. And then so fast forward a couple more months, 2019 ended, 2020 began, and I was like, you know what, I'm really gung-ho about, you know, like really getting back into it and getting a lot of work. So I started planning a lot of photo shoots in around like January, February, and I was working like a horse for like those 2 months, which is amazing. Like I felt so like creative and I was getting a lot of work. I was like slowly getting back on the horse and like the wheels were, you know, going. And then coronavirus hit. And then it all just went. I was like, I'm right back to where I was in like mid 2019 again. And I don't know. That's just kind of like where I am now.
Yeah, I remember seeing your post on Facebook when you were talking about like literally I don't think it was like a big post, but I just saw you just cancel all your photography gigs and just like, you know, I was just thought, oh damn, this is getting real.
It's getting real.
You know?
And I'm canceling like photo shoots.
And
I
then,
never cancel photo shoots.
And there was a point in what was all going on that you kind of stopped even doing the food delivery stuff. Were you just kind of more worried about contracting anything, or was that you just needed to take a break for just your mental health? Or
yeah, okay, so on the surface I want to blame it on Animal Crossing because I took a 3-week hiatus from literally everything, and I binged, oh my god, I binged Animal Crossing so bad. I think, let me go check my Switch real quick.
Okay.
I'm just gonna show you guys how deep into this shit that I got, okay? Can you see it right here? It says 485 hours logged. Or is it showing? Let me see.
Oh, I could kind of see it. It's in the blue, right?
Yeah, so right under Animal Crossing New Horizons, it logs how many hours I played on it. It's 485. Like, I'm not even, I should be ashamed, but I'm really not. Well, but no, on the surface, it was like, you know, I just wanted to have time to play Animal Crossing and really binge it and kind of just like live my gamer fantasy for a while. I took 3 weeks off, but I feel like, so how it started was like towards the end of April, I had pretty much gotten all the money that I probably needed for the rest of the month to like cover my bills and food and like all that stuff. And has this weird glitch going on right now where every Friday it just dies. Like the app just completely crashes for a couple hours. No one can work. If you go on downdetector.com, like there's literal like spikes that go up to like 20,000-30,000 like reports of people who are having issues with DoorDash. And so it was such a recurring thing that I started taking Fridays off. And then this one Friday, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to chill at home, play Animal Crossing and binge it. And then Saturday rolled around, and then Sunday, I didn't go back to work. And then Monday, and then it just kept going and going. And then the next Friday happened. I was like, you know what? It's already Friday, man. Like, it's not, I'm not going to work today anyway, so let's just take another Friday off. And then it just rolled over until 3 weeks later. I'm just like, you know what? Wow, I haven't gone to work in like 3 weeks. And then, which is cool, like I kind of needed that mental break because of the mad dash of like January and February, with all the COVID-19 things going on right now, just everything going crazy, the rampant racism, and anti-Asian like stuff that's going on
Yeah.
right now, especially in Los Angeles.
And the panic
Just a
buying.
lot of things have been going on right now, and I kind of felt a little worn out and burnt out from, like not just trying to survive a pandemic, but also having to deal with the front of like the racism as well. Which I mean, it's not like, oh my god, this is completely new to me. Like I've experienced anti-Asian racism like for a very long time, especially with my delivery work. So I'm kind of used to it right now, but it kind of just got a little out of hand recently. So a lot of it kind of just combined into like one messy like package that's like wrapped in like Animal Crossing wrapping paper.
Yeah.
And I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stay at home until I feel a little bit better, just isolate myself from the world. And at the same time, I have been working for like a month into the pandemic already, and I kind of wanted to see if I was asymptomatic or not. So the 3 weeks was like a good time for me to figure out if everything was okay, and Lord, it felt good, not gonna lie. Like just staying at home, waking up in the morning, playing Animal Crossing, maybe going get Wingstop, and then coming home, playing until like 4 a.m., going to sleep and doing that shit all over again the next day. Like, I don't know, it felt liberating. Like, I didn't really take care of my responsibilities that much. And it felt good, like, to kind of just, like, let it all fall apart for, like, a little while. So, I mean, that's kind of where it was with, like, the whole 3-week thing that I posted on Facebook.
Yeah, I think that's good in the sense that it's taking care of what's inside versus outside, because what a lot of people are not getting, and I've talked to some people about it, is that you need to take care of not just your physical health but also what's going on in your head. And I don't know if anybody that's non-Asian can understand what we're feeling too, when it comes to kind of what you mentioned before, that anti-Asian hatred right now, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's always existed. It's just I
yeah,
feel like because of the pandemic, it's gotten
it's heightened,
exacerbated.
yeah. And I actually do have a story, and it was weird. It was a funny that made me. It's a story that made me laugh, but at the time I was just like, what is this guy doing? But anyways, I'll go into that. But yeah, what I wanted to at least highlight for folks listening to this is that you need to really take care of yourself on the inside, because like whatever decisions you make, those knee-jerk decisions can have long-lasting consequences.
Exactly.
And if you're always on a constant hum of stress, you can make really bad and poor decisions. So it's really trying to keep yourself kind of level in that way.
And I feel like a part of what contributed to that burnout too was like the pressure of like maintaining a state of productivity in quarantine, because I felt like, like a lot of us are staying at home now. We're not like going out anymore. This is like a really good time for me to sharpen up on skills, which I mean, I still believe is true. Like I could definitely be a little bit more productive in my time. But I feel like that pressure to like be productive in the midst of like a global pandemic, it's kind of like messed up, and like it kind of did contribute to that burnout, because like on one front I'm like dealing with like the fear, anxiety of like is it gonna be me next, and then at the same time like also feeling, okay, well I still need, even if I don't have COVID-19 or whatever, like I still need to be productive, I still need to work on my business, I still gotta do all these things. And I felt like, damn, like after a couple of weeks of doing that and like trying to, it felt like I was like maintaining a front with myself mentally. Like if I wasn't, I kept telling myself, if I just focus on my business, if I focus on work, if I focused on continuing my savings goals, working towards like my financial goals, I could at least drown out all the news that's going on around me and kind of be a little bit more insular with my experience. But the idea, like the thought is always in the back of my head, you know, like what's all this even worth in the end? Like, I mean, what if I end up getting COVID-19 and then by work so hard for like all these weeks or months or whatever, and it's all for naught because, you know, like I could just be dead tomorrow from it, you know? So it was like a very nihilistic. Is it nihilistic? I don't know. Like, what's the term? Fatalistic? I don't know. But it just felt like, in the end, it kind of caught up to me. And I was like, you know what? Is it even worth it for me to maintain this sense of like productivity when I could just relax and chill? Because maybe I'll end up getting it and I'll regret not taking the time to like do things I wanted to do, you know,
Right.
because now I can't.
I was listening to a podcast that you know, it's kind of like a self-help kind of podcast, but they were talking about you know, productivity and like this whole kind of shelter in place, this whole pandemic thing. And someone was saying like, oh, there's this social media post that someone said, it's like, oh, if you don't take the time to do something for yourself right now, it's not that you didn't have the time, you're just unmotivated. And I thought that's just kind of a screwed up way of thinking, that, you know, like,
Oh, I seen that post. I know which post you're talking about. It's like
yeah,
if you're not productive, you don't create something, you don't do something for yourself, you're not strapped for time, you're just unmotivated and lazy. I'm just like, when I first saw that post, I was like very gung ho about like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be productive. And it's the pandemic kind of like went on and like it just kept going. I was like, you know what? Fuck that shit, man. Like why are we still pushing this very Western idea of like we have to be productive 24/7 and our worth is like placed in our productivity?
yeah,
And then like the more I read that post, the more I realized, wow, this person is so condescending. Like it, it was just annoyingly condescending. Like you don't realize it at first, but then the more you see it, the more you realize, yeah, you're kind of like you're really like pretentious and condescending. Like
yeah. It was just kind of the thing. It's just like, it depends on the person that would probably view it. Like if somebody is like super like goal oriented and stuff like that, they could probably see that as one thing.
yeah,
What I see it is that like I understand there's a lot of different types of people out there, and I feel for someone that needs time to kind of contextualize what's going on, like, you know, it's not fair to them because they need time to process all of this stuff that's happening right now, you know.
yeah,
And
and it's like oh man, I think I got something stuck in my eye. Hold on.
yeah, I noticed that. That's
Yeah, no, but I feel like when you like people don't also understand that like the people who have the opportunity to quarantine, it's kind of a
yeah.
privilege. It's a
Mm-hmm.
real privilege for someone to have a job that allows them to work from home or allows them to kind of have the opportunity to quarantine themselves. And for me, like I'm kind of straddling both the privileged and the underprivileged side because at one point I do have enough savings to at least like take like a 3-week vacation. I didn't really spend that much money, to be honest with you. Like I didn't really dip into my savings that much. And I'm kind of glad I didn't. But at the same time, like I'm still an essential worker, and I still got to go to work, you know. And people don't realize that there are people who still have to go to work, and like a lot of us aren't going to be able to be in quarantine. Like it's a very small percentage of very privileged people who are able
Yeah.
to stay in quarantine
Mm-hmm.
and to maintain or to shame people for not being productive during that time period, especially if they're an essential worker. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, bro, like chill out, man. Like, why you gotta
Yeah.
be an asshole for her?
Yeah, I really find myself being very much more appreciative of like people working at grocery stores and like
Yeah,
doing these types of jobs. I've recently got unfurloughed, so I started
yeah,
working in virtual classrooms and helping through there, and then th- that kind of started to escalate to me helping out food distribution. Like the place I work is like a nonprofit. They try to help in the community and things like that. And I'm worried because like I have family members that can get it bad, like of within the acceptable ranges of me to be very worried about me going out.
Yeah.
So they understood they understood my concern to a point that like I got a position where I just sort food. I don't have to interact with anybody else. I could just do that, and they
Yeah.
were willing to work with me to kind of like like to address concerns I have with family members that could probably get really affected by something like this.
Yeah, and I feel like for my work, because like I said, I do work for a delivery company, and I am like a delivery driver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of problems that goes with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I have my 2 cents about like the company that I work for,
Mm-hmm.
but on the flip side, like I feel like I do have one of the safest, quote unquote safest, essential jobs right now because of the kind of work that I do.
Right.
Because as a delivery driver, my only point of contact is really the employees at the restaurant that I deliver from.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally I'll have someone who comes to the door to like grab the food, or like most of the time they're just asking to leave it at their front door, especially if they live in like the skyrise in downtown. So my point of contact with other people is actually very low. And the fact that in downtown, like I'm not really gonna be in contact with a lot of people right now because it's just a ghost town.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like out of most of the essential work that is out there, I do feel lucky that I'm a lot safer than most other people, and I wish I can impart that kind of like feeling to other people, but I can't. Like
Mm-hmm.
other people are more at risk than I am. But at the same time, it doesn't also diminish the fact that I'm also an essential worker, and I'm clearly not getting paid for putting myself at risk at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like the company that I work for, they're not. They're not. I don't know. Can you bleep out? Like I think I mentioned that I worked at like the company that I worked for. Can you bleep? Are you able to bleep that out later? Like when you're
Uh,
editing?
yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bleep
I'll
it
make
out because
sure.
I don't
I'll
want to
make
get
sure.
into.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, no, the company that I work for, like, they're not really doing their part to keep us safe either because we still gotta buy our own PPE.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they promise that there's gonna be shipments and stuff, and they're gonna email us with a link for us to go buy. Not buy, but they'll provide us with the PPE. We just have to pay for shipping, which is stupid. But they said they're gonna provide us with like masks and sanitizer and like gloves, but I still haven't received an email yet, because each driver will get an individualized shop that they can
Mm-hmm.
buy their stuff from, and a lot of us still haven't received like an email saying that we can go get like masks and stuff. So a lot of us still have to buy our own. Like I went and bought my own masks. Like I have a little stash at home right now. Like if I am outside at like a shop,
Mm-hmm.
I see someone selling them. If a store's selling like the surgical masks, like I'll go and buy like a couple packs for myself. But I shouldn't be paying for that stuff, especially since it's part of the work hazard. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a new. I would say it's kind of a new way of working now. Like with
Yeah.
all this happening. Um, in terms of work and going back to kind of that Asian stigma, I guess. Have you ever felt different going out and working, or just going out at all during this whole COVID-19 thing, while our I guess leaders are calling this the Chinese flu? So
Yeah.
has there any been kind of stress or pressure? Have you felt anything personally for yourself?
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah.
Definitely before the official lockdown happened, there were more people around. I
Mm-hmm.
was getting a lot of stares when I'm at work. I got some people who were more visibly hostile towards me.
Right.
Um, there was a post I wrote about a girl who like almost hit my car, and she called me the C word, and I was like, Mm, I didn't say anything to you, but damn, girl, like you
Yeah.
messy. Like you should know better than this. You're a person of color. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, yeah, no, definitely. Especially as a delivery driver, since I was out and about a lot more. I was getting a lot of hostility from other people. Even if it's not like outright, like that one girl. You do feel people who treat you kind of like a disease, and they'll kind of like avoid you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember sometimes I'll walk on the street, and like people would move off like further away from me,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though like literally they're walking out of the street, but they're not really doing that to anyone else except me. I'm like, you know what? It's cool. I don't like being near you anyways. I don't like people like being shoulder to shoulder with me. So me being Asian causes you to be scared and you want to avoid and like want to put some distance away
Mm-hmm.
from you and me. Like I'm not complaining
Yeah.
because I don't want to be near you anyway. Like it works in my favor. Like
Mm-hmm.
okay, like I don't like if you want to be racist and stuff. Like I mean, at the end of the day, that kind of benefits me because I'm not gonna like I hate it when people like I hate crowded places
Mm-hmm.
and I hate being like really close to people. Like I have gotten so close to like telling people to like, yo, can you like get away from me? Like even before like the pandemic, like I
Right.
have a very big like personal space bubble that I need to
Mm-hmm.
have respected, and the people. And at the same time, like now, because like people are physically avoiding me now because it's before social distancing occurred, they were avoiding me because I was like because they're racist. I'm just like, you know what? I kind of like this. Just kidding.
uh,
But
that's
but
an
at least they're not in my space anymore. And I kind of appreciate that.
interesting perspective. I I've had at least one experience of note that I went to an Italian market in San Gabriel. The staff
Yeah.
was fine. Nobody that works for this place did anything, but it
It's
was
the
the
customer, right?
customers. It was the
Yeah.
customer. I
Was
was
it a Karen?
no. Well, what's the male version of a Karen?
It's either a Chad or Brad, but I feel like, hmm.
If he's Italian, or I
Maybe a
assume
Bob. I don't know. No,
Bob.
no, no, no. I feel Bob would be too old. I don't know.
Let's go
I hear
Chad.
Chad a lot.
Yeah, let's go Chad.
But I feel like Chads are like younger, like college age Karens.
Well, I guess. Well, placeholder name.
Okay.
So I was just there, just buying sandwiches. That night, I was making Italian food. Of course, I went to an Italian market. But as I was just getting the sandwiches for lunch for me and my brother, there was somebody behind me in the line. I made my distance. I stepped away. I'm just like, okay, I'll just know you're there. Just keep our distance, right? And then he recognized that I was Asian. And so
The
I was
light
just
bulb went off.
the light bulb went off, and then I just, hey, can I get some more cheeses, and can I get some of this artichokes and stuff like that? And I got my stuff, but he would always keep me at his line of sight, just kind of like looking over, just like, oh, wait, is he still there? Is he still there? Like his body language said it all. And
Yeah.
then we kind of relatively got our food at the same time, and I made my way to like the register, and the way it was set up is just kind of like this kind of like little island of registers, and it's a close quarter kind of market. And so I turned a corner and got into the register to wait in the line, and the way it's set up is that they put all these like protective panels of plastic and everything, so you can't necessarily see the person behind it, right? He turns the corner, sees me at his line of sight, he goes, oh shit, walks back. And I was just like, okay. I thought it was funny at the time, but I was just like, okay, if this guy, he was it was kind of
He
racism out of
visibly
fear.
panicked.
Yeah, I think it was like kind of racism at fear. You know what I mean? Versus racism as anger. you know? So I just took it laughing, just kind of like, this is very weird to the point that it seemed funny to me at the time. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I can't believe it's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
And it's not like what happened in Texas, where what I think the Southeast Asian family got stabbed in
Yeah.
Texas. Like, it's nothing like that, that I don't know how, like, at least for right now, I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. But stuff like, you know people just out of fear just like step away and stuff, I was like, I could just deal with that because it just seems funny to me.
I feel for the most part, because I'm such a large guy, like I'm
Mhm.
6'1", and like I'm not like really skinny per se. I
Yeah.
think of a lot of things. I feel like people are more so, they're not as willing to like get in my face about it because I'm so
Mhm.
big. I'm usually bigger than a lot of these like racists that like I come across. Um and so they're not gonna like, I feel like they're not so like ready to like say anything because they don't know how I'm gonna react. And I'm kind of psycho, so like I wish a bitch would. But I feel like that's kind of like, I feel a part of it is like the fact that I'm a man and like I'm as big as I am. Like it kind of does give me a little bit of a protective barrier because people aren't so willing to like be upfront about their racism towards me,
Mhm.
just because they don't know what can physically happen to them if I get pissed off enough. Um, but other than that, like I mean, I feel like a lot of my other friends who are smaller than me, like they have experienced stuff where people have said something or done something to them, and it's just terrible. Like
Yeah.
it's, I wouldn't really know what happened when I got stabbed. Like,
Yeah.
am I just gonna sit there and bleed out, or am I gonna go like Super Saiyan mode?
It
Because like,
it
you know how like when people, like you know how like when a mom knows that her baby is like trapped under a car, she gets like superhuman strength. I wonder if like if I end up getting stabbed by someone who's being super racist, am I gonna go like Goku mode or something?
I guess the depends on where they stab you, but I guess well,
I don't
but
know where I'm going with this either,
I don't
man.
know where. Yeah. But it's true, like, you are a very tall person, at least to me. I think you're taller than one of my tall friends, I think.
Yeah,
So like, it does help. But if some, god forbid, if there's somebody that's intentionally want to like harm people, that's the people to be afraid of.
yeah,
And so I don't know if we ever mentioned this. So I don't know how long we're going to be on this whole COVID topic, but there was something that I wanted to bring up that I think you are very vocal about it. But
yeah,
the whole COVID-19 and within the LGBTQ community.
yeah,
Yeah, and you were very vocal about it, I think, out of the beginning of it. And I only heard about like certain ancillary side stories. I'm not within that community, so I don't know 100% what's going on. But I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking about how crazy it is that there's these groups of LGBT community members that are very for much for Trump. They're called Twinks for Trump.
thanks for Trump. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was reported on in LGBTQ Nation or something. I forgot what.
Probably. There's been multiple talks about them, and at the same time, it's like, do we really want to talk about them? Why are we giving them like a platform
Yeah,
to try to spread their stupidity? But you know, can't help it. You know,
yeah.
they're of a certain line of descent.
Uh, Do you have any opinions about that? Because it's something that you were talking about at one point.
So, how I feel about the whole Twinks, it depends on like where we're going with this. Like, I guess I can start off with like my thoughts on Twinks for Trump and
Mhm.
like these LGBTQ people who are very vocal about Trump. Um, and it kind of, for me, like I'm not like, I kind of roll my eyes about it because it's just so ridiculous that
Mhm.
you're like part of the LGBTQ community, but you're supporting a guy who actively hates people like us, and his vice president has done like horrific things to like gay people in his own state. Like, I don't try to like rationalize it, but it just made me realize that out of all the identities that we have as human beings, whether or not we're disabled, we're gay, we're Asian, we're like whatever, it made me more seeing stuff like Twinks for Trump and seeing that they're like, I'm just gonna be straightforward about it. They're all white. They're white as hell. It just made me realize that like out of all our intersecting identities, like race will always be at the very top of it, because you see women for Trump, you see Twinks for Trump, and I mean to some extent you do see like other minorities like Asians, blacks, and whatever. But it made me realize that, you know, like within the spectrum of who these people are who are very vocal and supportive for Trump within the LGBTQ community, they're white, cis, gay men. And at the same time, it kind of fits like this whole like, it fits this whole demographic that like at the same time, like really the only people who are that vocally voting for Trump is like white people at this point. You know, like, I mean, there are Asians who are voting for him. That's a completely different like discussion to have. But it made me realize that when you see like how many white women voted for Trump, even though like he doesn't represent a lot of their interests in terms of feminism, in terms of women's rights and equal pay and all that. You also see a lot of gay white men and women who are voting for Trump as well. And it made me realize that it really just boils down to race. It really boils down to the fact that like he aligns with their racial identity, and his white nationalist ideology just fits with what they like. You know, whether or not he's anti-gay, anti-women, and like all this other stuff, that doesn't matter to them. The fact of the matter is that he aligns with them racially.
Right.
And his nationalistic tendencies and ideas really resonates with them. So ultimately, we learn from seeing these kind of like fringe groups that are supporting Trump is that for them, it's not about their other identities. The most important identity for them is the fact that they're white. You know?
Yeah, I think my question that I was trying to align with is the gay community and coronavirus, you know,
Yeah.
and it took so long for I think what you were saying, that West Hollywood to close, and I think there was this kind of award ceremony, right, for adult films, for gay adult films that never got canceled and went on with being like an event in West Hollywood or somewhere along those lines.
I feel like, yeah, my thoughts on that, I feel like you have two very different facets of the gay community. You have the very superficial, the very like circuit queen, like the kind of the aspect of our community that's really all about partying and like looks and like all that very superficial stuff. You have like that side of the community. Then you have the very activist side of the community. And sometimes they do overlap, you know, like you do have activists who really like to party and like do all those things. And you do have people who party who care about LGBTQ like activism and stuff. But I feel like there's two very different polar sides of the community. And you have the partying side, which is very like, no, like we want to keep like having like circuit parties and like Songkran and like white party and like all these major events in the gay community. Like they wish that stuff still went on because they just want to party. Like recently, the male escort that was caught with Andrew Gillum from Florida, he attended like a house party in like I think New York, along with like a couple other like really high profile like gay entertainers and whatnot. We're all this party in the middle of a lockdown, you know, and they're still trying to like have fun and do their thing. And he posted like 60 Instagram stories of him at this party. So you have like those people who like don't care about the lockdown, they don't care about the virus, they don't care. They haven't learned anything from the AIDS epidemic that happened. in like the 70s or like in the 80s, they didn't learn from that, or they just don't care to learn. Then you have the other half of the community, which are people like me who are very like against these mass parties and gatherings. We are very understanding of the history that went on during the AIDS epidemic, and we're not really that pissed off that like events like Pride and like a lot of like these really big events are being canceled, because we realize it's part of the greater good, you know, and it doesn't matter to a lot of us.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have like the side of the community that learned from the AIDS epidemic, and the other half that didn't really learn from the AIDS epidemic, or like the ones that are more interested in the collective greater good, and the ones that are just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do whatever feels good for me, just be hedonistic about it.
Yeah, and my personal thoughts on it kind of comes from this idea. It's like, oh, I survived the AIDS epidemic, I'll survive this. You know, it's like those are two completely different diseases.
Well, at the same time too, like a lot of the guys who are at these parties, like they're too young to like remember the epidemic anyways, because like that happened in like the 80s, you know, and like a lot of people, so a lot of the people who survived the pandemic or like the epidemic are probably like in their 50s now. Let me see, I would say like if they're probably like 20 in like 1980, yeah, like they're roughly like 40s and 50s now. But that doesn't mean that like the effects still haven't like trickled down to my generation of the queer community, you know, like we hear stories, like we understand the history of it, and like it's still a big part of our community now. Like we just didn't forget about it. It's just some people choose to like not care about where we came from. They're more just invested in like the hedonistic side of the queer community, like Pride and like all these events, but they don't really care about the history and like what's going on before them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just kind of unfortunate, you know, because if it gets to a point, you know, and I think you mentioned this before, it could get to a point that because these events are not being canceled, because people are not being safe with themselves, then the blame gets passed to another group of people. You know what I mean? Then it starts being called, oh, so because they didn't do what they needed to do, we're gonna call this by something else. And like,
well, that's not really the problem, because well, it's not so much a problem. It's more of like the really racist people are always gonna call it what Trump called it, but that doesn't stop other communities from being scapegoated and being blamed for the spread by other people. Especially here in Los Angeles, we really felt that spread was mainly because of the West Hollywood area, and it really started like the pandemic in LA was really began because a lot of people weren't practicing social distancing. They were still going to events, especially out in West Hollywood, and that really bothered me because I was scared for a while that it would be pinned on my community. Like both of my identities, really. Like I'm gay and Asian. Like, damn, bro. Like I'm like, I don't want to be like blamed on both fronts for this, you know, because I don't know. It was like I was scared, and I was like pretty upset that like they would not only put themselves in danger, put the community at large in general, but also like they didn't care that like, you know, people could view this as like, oh, the gays spread it in LA just like they spread AIDS. Like that was the one thing that I was fearing most.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you was very much vocal about your concern on that on Facebook, and I just thought, God, it's like having to deal with this pandemic in such nuanced ways, you know, like it's not the Asian thing, and also like we don't either identify as Chinese. Like I'm like 1/4 Chinese, and people just assume I'm like Chinese because I'm just out and about.
Yeah.
But you know, just dealing with this pandemic and in those terms is just, I think it just piles on that stress, you know. So other than Animal Crossing, what have you been kind of doing to kind of like keep yourself at ease, during this pandemic?
That's a damn good question. What else besides Animal Crossing am I
Yeah,
doing
other than
nowadays?
Animal Crossing.
To be honest, you saw how many hours I logged into that. I have like, oh man, yeah, it's really just Animal Crossing. I watch a lot of YouTube.
Hmm.
Um, I've been getting into like this one channel that I'm really into. It's called Girl in Calico, and like she lives like this very cottage core lifestyle, which is like
Hmm.
really calming. Like I love watching her videos. Um,
So she
because she
just
lives
kind of
out.
lives. Yeah, she just lives out in a cottage or something.
I don't know. I think it's a cottage. It's like or a very small house
Hmm.
out in like I don't know Bumfuck, Oregon or something. Like it's out like where there's actually seasons.
Yeah.
She has like this little house. Like her, it's like she has a whole garden. And like she does like she plants seasonally, she eats seasonally, she lives very seasonally. I'm just like,
Mhm.
man, like dang, that's one lucky girl. Like she gets to live like so peacefully.
I feel like she's probably living Animal Crossing. She's playing Animal Crossing in
She
hard
is
mode.
no, she's living the Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon lifestyle, which is just like it makes me really happy. Like I love watching her videos. Like I don't really, wouldn't really want to make a lot for food. Well, I would, but it's just like it doesn't fit my lifestyle because she bakes a lot of her own bread.
Hmm.
She eats like 90% plant based. Like she doesn't eat like meat, but I mean I've seen her use like eggs and cheese in some of her videos. But she cooks a lot of her food and she lives very seasonally, which is very nice. Like and like it's just a very
It sounds like she kind of
relaxed.
sources her own things. I think that's just kind of the main thing, right? She sources
It's
her own.
very like yeah, it's very idyllic, and like
Yeah.
I love watching like not to like cross promote or anything, but you guys want to like if you guys need something like calming but don't want to go into ASMR, like Girl in Calico is probably like one of my favorite channels right now.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with ASMR though.
No, nothing wrong with it, but it's just not everyone's cup of tea, you know.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
she doesn't really talk too much in her videos. It's just mostly like very calming piano music, but like you watch the videos and you're just like, oh man, I want to live like that.
I I started this weird thing where I started watching more kind of paranormal stuff. I don't know why. During a pandemic, it's like, oh, it's like I don't know, I guess going through a goth phase or something.
Yeah.
But isn't that true? Like a lot of gothic literature came out of the plague or something?
No, Gothic literature came out during the Victorian era.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah. So the plague, you're thinking of the Renaissance. The Renaissance came after the
Oh,
plague.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Waiting
like
for
everyone's titties be out because
yeah.
everyone's horny and they're stuck inside all the time. So all these painters, they're doing their own crazy shit.
You just need a burst of life after something like this.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like we're gonna have. I hope and feel like we would have some kind of like a huge renaissance in like art and like culture once the pandemic is over. I mean, I feel like we're having one now
yeah, I feel I,
with
I
all the
feel
new art that's being created. Like
yeah,
people,
I feel like there's been a shift at least in the entertainment industry, and I feel there's going to be a lot more um I guess stories and like people being more creative in a situation like this because um you know there's good things to learn from adversity and all of this and I feel like working with limitations is probably a good thing, I guess.
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure where I was going with that, but I I think the point is that I think there might be some good stuff coming down the line. Yeah.
yeah, like my Animal Crossing island.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures? I need to. I'm trying. It's so stupid, but I'm trying so hard to get my favorite like streaming channel to tour my island once I'm done with it. Like I love him so much.
I
I
I
put a lot of hours into this game, man. I want to show it off.
I have a Switch that's available to me right now, but it's not
Uh-huh.
mine.
Yeah, you
And
told
I
me your brothers, right?
yeah, and I learned that you can't transfer Animal Crossing save data.
Sir, I told you that multiple times.
Yeah, I just like I didn't buy Animal Crossing yet, but if I do, I was just like maybe instead of working on my island, I could just be like doing other people's work. Hey, it's like, do you need pickup weeds or whatever?
No, I've seen that. Like, there's a weird, like, I feel like someone needs to write an article about this, but there is like a weird economy that's growing out of Animal Crossing.
Mhm.
Like, it's its own micro like economy. Like, I've seen people trade like real life money for stuff in the game. I saw people who, I think there's like a Facebook group called Animal Crossing After Hours, and people are selling nudes to get like certain villagers or like Nook Mile tickets or like bells. I'm just like, yo, you do you, but that's kind of crazy how like this very innocent little like game has evolved into like such a strange economy.
Yeah, I guess in that way, it's like the Nintendo fan base kind of grew up and so like, hey, I'm willing to sell some like stuff to get like
Yeah.
good stuff.
Or like people are just like not not considering stuff like Animal Crossing After Hours.
Mhm.
There's also like these groups that are like out for people to sell like whatever. Like people are spending like real life money for things in the game that
Yeah.
people are willing to offer. And it's kind of like crazy how like you actually like make money off of it now, and not in the same way that's like with like Minecraft where you could stream and like you can make income that way. But like
Mhm.
in this game, you're actually making income from things within the game, like just grinding and I don't know. I haven't seen it since like RuneScape. I had a roommate back in college who had like a grinding um like program that he had
Mhm.
on RuneScape, and he would sell stuff for money.
Mhm.
And he just sold his account and he made like a couple $100 from it.
That's not bad. And
Yeah,
back when I think what Diablo 3 or 2 came out,
yeah,
it's like people selling like swords and shit, like digital stuff, and it's a crazy economy, like
yeah.
when it comes to video games.
Gaming economy. I wasn't aside from like that one case with my roommate. I don't think
Mhm.
I've ever experienced like an economy, like an in-game economy like that before, and I thought it was just really interesting.
There was the this is a story time for maybe later, but there's this game called Eve Online.
Hmm.
And the whole point is like it's like a sci-fi video game, and it has its own built-in economy and everything.
Yeah.
um Someone created a bank, like a trading bank, got people to pay into the bank, right, to put their savings and
Like game money in the bank or like actual money.
in-game money. But
Oh,
there's all these workarounds that you could trade that money for actual money.
okay.
But um this person started this whole thing. He made this bank. He got up to a certain point of money and said, okay, I'm closing it, I'm stealing all this money, and I'm going away.
Oh man, what the
He's
hell?
This individual was so brazen, right? He put a in-game amount of money. It was like 1 million whatever currency they have in the game. He put him he put a bounty on himself, got paid for the biggest ship in game, and just fucked off somewhere. Nobody's
Wow,
seen his character ever since.
wow.
And this is a massively multiplayer online game. I think this game is like probably big I think in Korea, I think. But it was the craziest video game story I ever heard. It was like this person built the bank, stole the money, put a bounty on himself, bragged about it on YouTube, and he was never seen again.
I mean, he probably just logged off and never logged back in again.
I guess that's true, but your game character persists in the game world. So
Oh really?
yeah,
So you can actually like someone can physically find you then, or
yeah. So I don't.
that's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. It's an insane story, but I've for me with this quarantine, I've been working out, and I've gotten to a point where I think I started missing the gym.
Oh my
In a
god, me
way.
too. Yeah,
So
we were talking about that on Facebook. Yeah, like we're both kind of missing the gym.
I think the thing was
Oh
is
my god.
my friend is gonna kill me, but like it took him so much to try to get me to the gym, and I was being such a prima donna about it. But after a while, like I'll go. Hello.
Oh, sorry, I scrolled over.
Oh, sorry. After a while, like, I started like actually liking to go to the gym, especially by
Yeah.
myself. So, um, he's probably gonna hate me by saying that because it took him
I
so
feel like
much to
it's
get
just
me to the
because like
gym.
we haven't gone.
Yeah, I guess you never really miss it until it's like taken away to some
Exactly.
degree. Yeah.
That's how I feel, like with the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's also because I've been eating so terribly.
Mm.
I'm starting to gain the weight. I can feel like the double chin coming in, like
Yeah.
cheeks are a little bit fuller than they should be. Like I kind of wish I can go back to the gym now because I was planning on going.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm on Amazon looking for 25-pound dumbbells just so I can do something. I heard
We're
there's a
having the
shortage,
conversation.
though.
What?
I heard there's like a shortage though on like gym equipment.
It's weird. It's like when something like this, there's shortages of stuff that you wouldn't think there would be shortages
Shortages of like toilet
shortages of
paper.
toilet paper. I think at one point, there were like I think condoms, like contraceptives stuff.
Oh no.
What was gonna be like
There's gonna be a
sold
lot of
out?
Corona babies.
The Rona babies.
Oh no.
I think I made a joke with a family member. It's just like, you just got a kid. Coronavirus is happening. Go bored.
Oh my god.
Any plans?
That's terrible.
You want another December baby?
Oh my god. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We should not be having any kids right now. Not that, I mean, not that I can have any kids right now, so I'm in the clear, bro. I'm just looking at like these prices for dumbbells, and it's so wildly different. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like some of them are like $80, and there's some that are like 30. I'm just like, so what's the truth?
Yeah, like what's the difference? Yeah, you're gonna get like a dumbbell from un like scrupulous places.
Yeah, I don't really like a lot of exercise equipment. I'd rather just go to the gym and like just do it. The thing that scares me the most though,
Mhm.
and I have like this unnatural fear
Mm.
of resistance bands. I am scared shitless of resistance bands, especially the ones where like you have to put your foot on it and then like you just do the thing. I have gotten too many like rubber band snap on me for me not to have like an irrational fear of like resistance band snapping on me.
There's so
And that's
many
gonna hurt,
there's so many
like
fail videos of that,
see, like that's why. Like I'm just like I see people like work out with resistance bands. I'm just like, oh man, like I wish I could be that brave, but not today, man. Like I'm looking. There's this one photo on Amazon of these resistance bands, and this girl has her foot on the band, and she's just like lifting it up with like both hands. And I'm just looking at that. If my foot slips and that band goes up, it's not gonna be pretty. Like,
Yeah, I've seen videos where people will try to do it barefoot. I'm just like, first of all, put on some shoes, and second of all, it slips off the balls of their heel, and then like
it goes up.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not scared about it hitting my face. I'm scared of it hitting.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like, oh man, I don't know. Workout equipment's weird. I don't know. I can't get
Yeah.
into it. I just need some dumbbells. So I just need to work on my biceps.
I have some stuff that's kind of like just left over when my brother moved out. I'm just like, I guess these belong to me now.
Is it the brother that lived in the house with you, or is it the brother that lives in the back house?
The brother that lives in my house at the time, yeah. And so when he moved out, he left a few cool things, and I got like a few yoga mats. It's like a mini gym. It's just like a very low weight kind of keep your body in resistant mode. I guess I don't think that's a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but just stuff to kind of keep me going. I got a 10-pound weight, and I got an adjustable dumbbell, and then I have what's that roller? It's the one to kind of roll your back.
Oh, foam rollers, right?
Foam roller, yeah, I got one of those. And then my mom decided to buy a treadmill for this house, and so we've been
Where
working
can
on.
you guys even fit the treadmill? Because like your entire house is filled already.
Yeah, what's left of my garage is where that is where that
God.
treadmill is. The only downside is that I've been watching like TV shows, right? And like all I have is my phone, and
Yeah.
so it's a super small screen. And then when you're running, it's just basically the screen's going like the whole
Oh,
time.
I hate that. No, I
Yeah.
can't.
So like if
That's
I
why I can
watch,
only listen to music. I can't. Like even when I'm on like the elliptical or anything, like I can't like be on my phone. Like it just hurts my eyes.
so you can't even not even music.
No, I'll listen to music.
Oh, okay,
It's just
okay.
it's very difficult for me to focus on like it's hard for me to focus on like the screen,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it like it's again if it's not the screen going up and down, it's because I'm going up and down when I'm running.
Yeah.
So
I
it's just too small. Like if the screen's bigger, then I'll be a little bit more comfortable. But I can't be looking at my phone when I'm doing that.
yeah. I've started playing Mario Odyssey on my Switch because
Ooh,
that's like
how's it?
this is like the only game that's on there. And
Mhm.
so I logged in like 10 miles playing Mario Odyssey.
Wait, while running?
Not running. I just do like what like 3.5 mile per hour, like kind of like walk.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm just like I'm not holding this. So I take off.
See, I should have done that with Animal Crossing. Just be like walking on the treadmill while playing Animal Crossing instead of just laying on my bed.
I got that idea from a video game journalist. Surprise, surprise. And
Yeah.
and they said they logged in 50 miles on Skyrim. and
Dang.
and it's just like that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. That's 2 marathons.
Yep.
Yeah. And so far 10 miles on Mario Odyssey. I'm gonna see how long that takes me to finish that game. Well, anyways, I think this whole podcast just kind of fell into let's just talk about the pandemic.
That's just. I feel like it's just like talk about anything. Like it just became like very random, which
Well,
I
that's
like.
true. Yeah, that's true. I think my idea of of this sort of style podcast is that I like listening to Joe Rogan. I tend to kind of like to talk a lot. I haven't
Yeah.
really talked a lot with anybody, so might as well just do it in a podcast.
Same here, man.
Yeah. So there was some questions that I don't think that we got to, and I think we're just kind of winding down because I want to be respectful for your time, and we only slated about an hour. So
Well, what's one question that you really wanted to ask?
so there was I watched the last podcast that we did.
Mm-hmm.
We went through everything about your photography. We talked about you coming out and all those things, but we never really talked about where you came up with the name.
Oh yeah.
That was
Okay.
that was if we want to at least answer one question today is
Okay.
Cytherial. Where did that come from?
Okay. So, one night I was starting my fashion blog and Instagram, and I was like, you know what? I need a name. Like, what can this name be? And I'm really into like art history.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite paintings I was studying at the time was this one called Embarkation to Cythera. And I can't remember who's it by. Hold on, let me Google that real quick. I'm a terrible art historian. I can remember names of like works of art.
You can visually see it, right? That's the thing about art. You don't remember the name, you probably remember what it looks like.
Oh wait, I should know this. It's like one of my favorite like painters. I just didn't realize it was his work. It's by Jean Antoine Watteau.
Mm-hmm.
And he's this really famous like French Rococo painter who kind of was like the celebrity, like cultural, like painter of the time period. His work was really considered like frivolous and like more recording about the life that's going on during the time period, and it was like one of my favorite paintings of the time because it's just like it shows off like the beautiful like Rococo gowns and it's a very pretty painting. You guys should look for it.
Mm-hmm.
But Cythera is like the island where Venus is supposed to be born in. It's like a mythological island, you know, where she lives and was born in. It's also like an island in Greece. So you can actually visit Cythera. Um, but I don't know. It's just like it's just a group of like very fashionable people who were just laying around, hanging out. I felt like, like that kind of looks like fashion to me. That's like it's a very fashionable painting. And the other half of my name comes from the word ethereal, which is like very frivolous and kind of like it's otherworldly. It's kind of like it's here 1 minute and gone the next, like ephemeral, ethereal, like very light. It conjures up the idea of like something very light and airy. So I can combine the two to make Cytherial. Change the spelling around a little bit because ethereal ends in like L, and I was like, I don't like how it looks. I'm gonna give it an I instead. So Cytherial was born out of these two words that I felt kind of like when blended together was my take on fashion. Um, it's something very beautiful. It's otherworldly. It's almost like magical, but it's also ephemeral. It's here one moment and it's gone the next. And I kind of felt like that's how I felt my take on fashion was. And at the same time, like for me, when it evolved into my photography, I was like, you know what, that also kind of applies to, because I really love taking very frivolously pretty photos that didn't really have that much meaning into them. But now it's like it evolved. Like I kind of want to create like my own little world of like beauty and like and just art. And so that name kind of stuck around for like the past 5 or 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And Cytherial came about.
Yeah. Well, that that's a great story. I never knew there was like this kind of like this art history portion, and then this kind of like cultivating kind of this feeling into that name. Yeah.
I kind of felt like that was kind of like what I was going for. Like I kind of wanted the whole like very like Venus, Aphrodite, kind of like very Lady Gaga, kind of like take on fashion, and also the Rococo, and that's like literally my favorite like moment in history. Like I love the Rococo, and the court of like Madame Pompadour, and then she was also like Madame Pompadour and Marie Antoinette, like they were the trailblazers of fashion during their time periods. More so Madame Pompadour, because she was, as much as people like to blame Marie Antoinette on like her frivolous spending, the real culture shaker was Madame Pompadour. Like she founded like a lot of organizations. She patronized a lot of like not photographers, what am I saying, painters and other artists. And so all that kind of wove in to kind of create the brand that I have now. Or like at least what I'm hoping the direction the brand will go in the future.
Yeah. You kind of tacked on a thing where how art kind of relates to photography, because I use Edward Hopper, the 1920s, the 50s painter, that as like inspiration for me to do like nature photography and like do things outside of that nature, and so it's like how the relationship of art and like it into photography, it's kind of like this inspiration machine almost. Yeah. Anyways, well, I feel like we could talk more about that later.
Next year.
In time. Hopefully sooner than later. I hope to probably talk to more. I think especially it being May and Asian Heritage Month, I want to try to at least talk to some friends that of whom are like kind of trying to get their lives together, or are owning their own businesses, doing all these things. And so I want to try to get their kind of opinions on like what's happening, especially with what's happening right now. So at least that's kind of my hope, and I'll try to see about that. But until then, you could check out Vincent at his Instagram. Do you want to just lay out your social media right now? Just let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so my Instagram, you can find me at Cytherial with an underscore. I think link will be in description. I've always wanted to say that. Link is in the description, or you can find the title card right here. I don't know.
You just do it. I'm giving you the floor. You could do it right now.
No, well, you can find me at Cytherial on Instagram. Cytherial with an underscore. And then my portfolio website is just cytherial.com. And we'll provide you guys with a link so you guys want to check out my work. You guys can find it there.
All right, and so we'll finish it out. Hope we can talk next about future plans, what you're going to be doing. Hopefully, everybody's trying to say get back to normal. Let's just see what's going to happen. Let's find our new normal. What's happening.
It'll just be Animal Crossing, man. We're gonna be 6 months into this, a year into this. We're just going to be, oh, how are you doing, Vincent? Animal Crossing.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Bye, y'all.
That's Bryan.